It's the Sauce, Alex Zayne, and you're watching the Ring General Podcast. Turn this man around, subscribe, like, and comment.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the UFC Show from the Ring Generals. My name is Nick Nenad. Alongside me is Easy E, Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys?
And of course, our boy, our top contributor, Jesse.
What's up, jabronis?
Now, you see the type of hat that Jesse's wearing. You see the type of hat that I'm wearing. You see the type. Never mind.
No, you don't have a hat. You didn't tell me.
I know. I didn't give him the information. I had the extra hat. And Jesse picked it. It's Merry Christmas, everybody,
Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays to everybody. Exactly. Whatever you celebrate, happy holidays. Thanksgiving was just around the corner. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I sure did, although I was sick.
I was sick too, but
so we were all sick. Then.
Yeah, rainy day.
Thanksgiving was sick this year.
I was sick. Hell yeah.
All right, this is good. This is a horrible start to this podcast, but here's the thing. We have a lot to talk about today because although this is going to be called a UFC show, we're going to talk a bit about boxing because obviously we had a lot of big boxing the last 2 weeks. Of course, we had Deontay Wilder's spectacular knockout of Luis Ortiz that we sort of expected, but not the way it went down. You, of course, had Anthony Joshua get back his world heavyweight titles in Saudi Arabia this last weekend. And then of course we have a huge boxing match now set for February because of some of the stuff that went down. We will also be talking about the latest in MMA. We also have a big return in the MMA world. Someone that we did not expect to be fighting this soon. And so we'll get all. Where do we want to start with this, guys? Like, what do we want to like? We can talk about anything we want.
Let's start with boxing first.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's start with boxing.
Pretty big.
Okay, so. Let's talk about Joshua and Ruiz because that just happened. Obviously, I think a lot of us going into this fight thought Joshua would look better because Ruiz kind of, he shocked the world and he shocked Anthony Joshua. Joshua didn't look too into the last fight, got knocked down multiple times. It was very, very embarrassing for who was supposed to be one of the top heavyweights in the world.
High profile name.
Exactly.
Right.
Credit Andy Ruiz for kicking his ass. Yeah. But then coming into this fight, Andy Ruiz was well overweight. Yeah. He had said that he didn't train as well. Joshua said he was in the best shape of his life.
About 30 pounds, I guess.
Yeah. Right. And it looked like that, too. I don't know if you guys saw the full fight. I watched it very choppy because my stream was not working very well. Yeah, exactly. I think it was raining here in California, too, so I think that...
Or the connection wasn't all that good over there.
Saudi Arabia.
It probably was, though. I mean, we could talk shit on Saudi Arabia if you want. We're not going to be journalists that go over there. We're just going to be journalists here.
In America.
Bad joke. Poor joke. Okay, but back to Saudi Arabia. They're horrible. No, I'm just kidding. So Anthony Joshua gets a big win. Some people said that he kind of did the Floyd Mayweather defense thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think this was all in Joshua's hands, at least in my opinion. I think all he had to do was really just win this fight, and then everybody kind of was going to respect him a little bit more. If he would have lost a second time to Andy Ruiz,
you would have lost like some people's faith in fans.
Almost,
but those are like some of the casuals. They'll just talk smack over if you lost. Like Ruiz, like hold my taco, hold my beer.
Yeah.
But
nobody did that. He guzzled it down and was well overweight for that fight.
Exactly.
But so Anthony Joshua gets the win. Do we want to talk about the fight specifically, or do we kind of just want to talk about what's next for Anthony Joshua?
We'll talk about the fight specifically, and then after that, what's next.
Okay, so what I saw was, like I mentioned, a lot of defensive boxing. Joshua's jab was absolutely on point in this fight.
It was the Cinderella story.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Joshua actually used his length, in my opinion. Did you guys see that?
I saw more of that being applied throughout the entire fight. Ruiz Jr. just felt like you said, it felt like the fame got to him. It felt like he was not disciplined enough as it is. And that was the disadvantage for Ruiz Jr. Joshua looked 100%.
And the fact that Ruiz didn't have his coaches. He didn't listen to his coaches.
No, he didn't.
He didn't. For this one, he didn't really have like a full camp or a proper camp, as opposed to Anthony Joshua, which he listened to his coaches from the first round to the last. I mean,
it was a great display of boxing from Anthony Joshua. Not so much.
Very technical.
Yeah, not so much Andy Ruiz. I thought he came out and he looked like he was just. It was like, you know, we look at other fighters and we look at these knockout artists, and a lot of times they'll wait a little bit. They won't throw as many punches. It was almost like Ruiz came in this fight thinking that he was just going to be able to knock down Joshua again.
His combination throws would have been...
Well, no, but the way Joshua fought, he wasn't going to give Ruiz the chance, and Ruiz never adjusted.
He felt that power.
No, and his coaches, in my opinion, resorted to arguing that Joshua kind of boxed like a... You know, like a pansy. Yeah, there's a good word for it. I was going to say a lot worse things, but I want to try to keep this podcast not R-rated today. But but that's boxing. You have to adjust, and that's what people. That's why Floyd Mayweather's undefeated because nobody ever adjusts against him, right?
Well, not just adjust, but he was technical. Who on earth wants to be punched while fighting? I mean, nobody wants to get punched in the face. Like it's
the overall point is to not get hit.
Exactly,
that's the thing.
No, get the hit the least.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, and what was funny is Joshua won the fight, and he wasn't going to the body like the announcers were saying either, and he wasn't even utilizing his whole skills during that fight because I think he saw Andy Ruiz wasn't in the game, and he was like, if I just jab the hell out of him, and hopefully I don't get caught once or twice and get a 10-8 round in here from Andy Ruiz, I'm going to win this fight, and that's what he did, and he was talking shit, and he was doing all this stuff, and that's rightfully so, and Andy Ruiz comes out after the fight and says all this BS about there being a third fight. Yes, there's not going to be.
Not right away, at least. I mean, look, like from the first round of the fight, I mean, Ruiz had him a little bit, but he was looking for those knockout punches, like those heavy hitters. But they didn't start trading like those heavy punches until the fourth round.
Yeah,
and that's when everything started getting loose. But Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, thought like, hey, I'm getting hit in this fourth round. You know, I punched too many times. So I gotta start implementing my jab and then throwing that overhand right and then sneaking that right into straight right. I mean, those were beautiful combinations. Ruiz just went down to him, and Anthony Joshua just kept on circling around. With Ruiz's mistake, I'll say he should have cut the corners from Anthony Joshua from moving around. Like I isolated him at one corner and then started throwing blows. But
that's a good point. Yeah,
he didn't do that.
He stuck to the same pattern.
And Anthony Joshua just stuck to his game plan, and I can appreciate that for a fact.
100%. Well, here's the thing: definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and it not working. Yeah. Andy Ruiz did the same thing over and over again and it did not work. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, his strategy was working. And that's where you get frustrated when you're watching a boxing match like that, and you do root for a guy like Andy Ruiz who had that big upset and was just sitting there, not doing anything. And it says something that he went into the fight also as the underdog, even though he was the champion again. I guess it probably got people to bet on Andy Ruiz. Yeah. I was going to bet on Andy Ruiz, and I had a feeling in my stomach 2 days before, and I was like, you know what? I don't think it's I think Anthony Joshua.
I kind of saw Anthony Joshua because after the first fight, he kind of said, he actually said it himself, like, I stayed in New York and I didn't want to go back to my friends or family because I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed and ashamed.
And that's a good thing. And he was very reflective after this fight, after the first fight too.
Humble.
Yeah. And it was like, you were like, this is not going to be good for Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz does have power, and in boxing you can knock somebody out with one punch. But there's one dude that recently can literally throw one punch and he can win any fight at any freaking time, and that's Deontay Wilder. Personally my favorite fighter in all of the world right now in MMA and boxing. Because honestly, I think Deontay Wilder could be in MMA, and
I am surprised he's not there.
Stipe's been tweeting for that fight. I mean, even Francis Ngannou.
Yeah. Well, Stipe is like dodging DC and wants to fight somebody from the boxing world, which is completely like outrageous, but then at the same time pretty cool.
I mean, James Toney did that with Randy Couture. I mean,
Conor McGregor did it with Floyd Mayweather.
So it can happen.
There's more money in boxing. That's not the fighter's fault.
It's inevitable.
That's the UFC's problem.
It's a money. Like the money talks, and when you do business with boxing and MMA, it gets eyes from both worlds on the same event.
I'll say this though: if Stipe Deontay Wilder fight in a boxing match, that it's only lasting like 3-4 rounds. And Deontay Wilder's knocked him the hell out. Okay?
Deontay for sure. That's his world.
Deontay Wilder potentially is the heaviest hitting heavyweight of all time. And that's, I didn't want to say that like a year ago, a year and a half ago, but it's starting to become pretty evident. I mean, he hit Luis Ortiz in the forehead and knocked him out. Like, how does that? He knocked all of the possible liquids in Luis Ortiz's body off his head. Because it's just
only had a couple seconds to go back into the corner, but wow, that just opening, Ortiz just felt so confident enough for him to get corner, and then that opening, boom, just sent him down.
And Luis Ortiz was winning the fight.
He was doing good.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens in like half.
I know.
It's what happens in all the Deontay Wilder fights that go any sort of distance. Is he's losing, and all of a sudden it's just like crack, and it's just it's over.
It's that
right? The only fight it didn't happen in was Tyson Fury.
Don't get confident around Wilder. Do not have that opening.
And Luis Ortiz, speaking of great strategies, that was great strategies from both guys, and that fight was really fun to watch.
It was.
But we were all expecting a knockout at some point. I had knockout in the 5th round. That was mine. I think it happened in the 7th or 8th.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly, but yeah. I mean, Deontay Wilder gets a big knockout. Luis Ortiz, great effort, but it's kind of the end of the road for him. When you look at fights for Luis Ortiz, I'm not sure what comes next. He obviously needs a win for his next fight because he's, it's only 2 losses to Deontay Wilder. That's not the worst thing to tell anybody, but
but it's not a great on his record.
No, exactly. But Deontay Wilder has no losses, and neither does Tyson Fury. And now their fight is set up for late February. It's supposed to be in Las Vegas. They haven't officially announced it yet, but. We're looking at potentially one of the best boxing matches of all time.
That's a super fight.
Yeah, and the first fight ended in a draw, somewhat controversial because Deontay Wilder probably the scores don't add up that he would have won that fight or not won, but got the draw. But I think, because of how spectacular both times he knocked down Tyson Fury, he got 10-8 rounds, and he might have got a round in there, earlier on the fight. But nonetheless, they draw it, and essentially that fight did not count. So. We have this super fight, and we did this last month with UFC 245. Quick initial prediction. This fight was announced a week or 2 ago.
Yes.
What possibly happens in this fight?
I got Wilder winning this fight. I mean, it's probably gonna be some heavy. Like I think in rounds 2 to 4. I mean,
my goodness!
Wow, dude, you're scoring for that.
Okay, so what's your prediction? Because you're pretty shocked by this. Yeah.
Okay, so
you never know. I'm saying this because you never know. Anything can happen.
As of right now, I need to see them train. Like as soon as I see them train and how they're feeling and how they're doing, then that's how I'm going to give my prediction. Although my prediction might...
What's your gut right now? Without seeing it,
But right now, as of right now, I'm going to have to go with Tyson Fury. 9th round. 9th or 10th round. Because
I like that prediction.
Because around, I think it was like 11 or the 12th round where Wilder, he knocked down Fury.
12.
And, so the 12th round, from what I remember.
12. Yeah, it's 12.
Yeah, so I think Fury's going to have to return the favor and do the same thing too to Wilder. But this time he's going to land more significant strikes to Wilder. The thing that Fury has is his bobbing and weaving and the ability. And dude, Wilder was missing. There are times where he was missing Fury because his head movement is just so good.
So smooth.
So with that being said, I think that Fury might have the advantage and knock him down in the 9th or 10th round.
So you're saying knock him down or knock
out?
Knockout.
That's insane. You're saying Tyson Fury knocks out Deontay Wilder.
He's going to kick his ass.
Oh, okay, that's his gut. Okay, so for me, I
love the dude.
Yeah, here we go.
Remember,
we had a couple tiebreakers in New York. Remember that?
Yeah,
okay, but that's a whole. We're not going to get into that at all. But Deontay Wilder. Knockout power, right? He can knock out anybody. Tyson Fury probably has the best footwork of any heavyweight, possibly in history. What I think is going to happen here, gut initial reaction is Tyson Fury goes the distance and ends up getting a unanimous decision. I just think Fury's smart enough, a lot like Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz in their second fight, that he will essentially just fight a fight that avoids getting knocked out. And Deontay Wilder will look better. he admitted in the first fight that he was, the Staples Center crowd and the energy and how big the fight was got to his head, and he essentially was just trying to knock him out, right? I do think Wilder will look more like he did against Luis Ortiz in this fight, but it took him 7 rounds to knock out Luis Ortiz, who doesn't have the best footwork. I just think Tyson Fury, as an initial reaction, I cannot say that Deontay Wilder is just going to knock out Tyson Fury, and I think the only other way this fight goes is to the distance. I don't think Deontay Wilder wins 7 rounds of a fight. I just don't see that happening. But I'll be rooting on my boys. So I got Fury in distance. You got Fury in a knockout. And you got Wilder in an early knockout. So you got every
fourth round.
If there's somebody who can knock out Wilder, it's Fury. Although I love Wilder.
I'm predicting this right now. Fourth round, guys.
Fourth round. I'm surprised.
Okay. And my dog's around the corner. She guessed Wilder in distance. So you have every single element of this fight possibly could happen, and that's why
you're in the Nenad household.
Let's move a little bit in the MMA world. We've had a lot go down recently, even this last weekend. We had some news get developed. But let's dive into the return of maybe the most famous MMA fighter in the world right now.
Controversial too.
Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's coming out of this long layover he's had.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
He's going to fight none other than Cowboy
Cerrone.
which is an amazing fight, okay? Is it, and he's moving up weight classes, right?
Welterweight.
He's fighting at welterweight, which is crazy to me that his first fight back, he would go to welterweight against a guy like Cerrone, who's a badass himself. What do we think about McGregor taking a fight against Cerrone first? Like, do you think they call this a warm-up fight for potentially
They'll say it's a tune-up fight, but they also say Cerrone is more of a gatekeeper at this point, which I'm not going to argue, but also I'm not.
What do you mean by gatekeeper, though? When you
gatekeeper is more like a guy who keeps other fighters progressing.
Okay.
So, like, say I throw in who's this young cat? What's his name?
Gaethje?
No, not Gaethje. Well, I would say Gaethje.
Gaethje's kind of turned the corner, though. He's kind
Gaethje's turned the corner.
He's a beast now.
No, yeah.
Like a fighter like Drew Darber.
Okay.
That guy is young, explosive, very technical. He's got a great wrestling background, and if he were to fight like a guy like Cerrone, I mean that's a tune-up fight. That's like saying Cerrone doesn't really have it to be at the top, the highest level to be a world champion. But in my opinion, he still has a chance. He's still got a knockout chance. So,
you see Cerrone as that type of fighter for McGregor?
In a way, I do. But I also see Cerrone. I mean, he kind of just goes in the wild five and just storms through and
Still has hands.
And just throws those hands and leg combinations. I mean, those leg knockouts. He's well known for.
No, so like, do you think that McGregor, like, this is a sketchy fight for him to take coming back at a heavier weight than he's kind of usually fighting?
Fans have actually been dreaming about this kind of match.
That's true. Yeah, we heard about this a long time ago.
It's funny because the interview back in when I think it was like Aldo versus McGregor, the very first fight. I mean, Cowboy called him out for his BS in the back room and saying he was cordial to the other guys.
Yeah, that's way back in the day.
And then he just started smacking in front of the media. I mean, that kind of says about a person's personality, but I'm just going to throw that outside and focus more on the fighting styles. I mean, styles make fantastic matchups, and this is going to be a banger. But for me, if I were to choose McGregor and Cerrone, I'll choose Cowboy 100% of the time.
Wow.
I'm riding with the Cowboy.
Cowboy, yeehaw.
Cowboy shit. This is going to be a super interesting fight. Is it going to be the main event of this card too? Is it going to be 5 rounds? I think you're stealing fans' money if you don't make this 5 rounds.
It's a 5 rounds.
Make it 5 rounds.
I mean, McGregor and Cerrone in the past have tried to negotiate a contract, and there was a time they did want them as co-main events, but McGregor said no. I just want to be a main event. I want to get paid the biggest bucks, and Cerrone doesn't really care about the biggest bucks. He wants to fight McGregor. He wants to knock him out.
Yeah, because Cerrone's kind of accomplished like most things in MMA.
He's got like the overall, like the most knockouts, the most time that he's been.
I think he has the most wins period. Doesn't he? Yeah, most wins in UFC history.
He set records that not many people will be able to do.
No,
90 champions like Jones or Khabib or what's her name? Manny Nunes, Shevchenko. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, Shevchenko's just dominating her division too.
Yeah. I mean, records. Guys.
Yeah, no, but where this, and Conor McGregor is, I believe he's the first double champ.
Yeah.
So he has that on his record.
Simultaneously active double champ. Yes.
First MMA fighter to truly have a world famous boxing match as well.
Yes.
And actually stand in the ring with one of the best, if not the best boxer in history, at least at his weight class, Floyd Mayweather. So, this is going to be a great fight. I believe is it a UFC? It's UFC 246, right? It's not a fight night.
It's not a fight night.
It's 246. Also, that's another thing when you negotiate. You don't put McGregor on a fight.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
That's plus.
It would have been like putting Hulk Hogan on Thunder. Okay, it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be put
do that.
You're not going to put John Cena on the old
superstars,
right?
Superstars are main event.
Exactly. Yeah, very very good.
They have to be on the main card.
Yeah, but so man, it's going to be tough if McGregor loses that fight too.
I mean, McGregor's coming off of a loss. He hasn't fought since like 2016, so that was like about 3 years. And, I mean, unless he's kind of kept in shape, which some people do and do not. I mean,
Connor's from last year. He fought Khabib, right?
No,
He did fight Khabib last year. Yeah,
he did last.
It was last year.
It was last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it was.
No, but I'm saying his last win. I'm saying his
last
win.
Oh, yeah.
His last win was from 2016.
God, who did he beat? What was his last
That was
win?
Nate Diaz.
That was Diaz.
Yeah, that was
That's right. What am I
the
talking
second time. Yeah.
Yeah,
when
oh
they
my
fought.
God, that was so long.
But
Yeah.
I'm not taking away anything else, but he needs to win badly because he's coming off a two-fight losing streak.
Three fight losing streak.
Yeah.
He's lost to Floyd Mayweather too.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, I won't count that, but anyway.
In the boxing world,
In the boxing world, but
Maybe-
overall in the MMA world,
Yeah.
it's a 2 fights.
You'll probably get different opinions about that, but in the boxing world, yeah, that does count as a loss.
Okay, I'll throw that in, but it's a iffy. No.
Yeah, he's won life, is meaning that he's made $100 million, but he's lost everything else.
Right.
So, there's a lot of elements of McGregor too. They're a little different. I believe since the Diaz fight, he's had a child. How old is this kid?
About two.
Yeah, so he's, relatively, his kid hasn't seen him fight either. There might be that in his background as well, like in the back of his mind, he wants to fight for his child as well. There might be extra motivation there. The Khabib fight was...
Same thing for Cerrone, too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, the same thing for Cerrone. I just think that, Conor might have kind of slowed down life a little bit. I know, humble, because he hit the guy in the Irish bar. He was involved in a lot of other stuff, threw Dolly through the window. I do think he might be a bit calmed down. I guess we'll have to wait until the press conference.
I mean, money could change a person's life. And look what happened to Conor. I mean, he changed his life, but also kind of he didn't know how to handle that properly. But I mean, everybody's got their own ways, and Conor just happened to have a special, way of condoning.
Beating up old people.
And do a little coke and
You're not talking about John Jones, by the way. But yeah, so that's gonna be a really interesting fight. We don't have to predict that one necessarily yet, because I think we'll be predicting that. And we'll wait till that kind of full card comes out. But that's gonna be really interesting, and it's gonna be a good fight. Here's another one I want to throw in here that we didn't even preview on the beginning of the show. We just saw one of the more spectacular knockouts this year, this last weekend. I'm forgetting exactly how to pronounce the dude's name. It's the dude from Cameroon, right? He knocked out Alistair Overeem.
Yep.
and
he called out Francis Ngannou.
Boba Yaga versus the Boogeyman.
Are you kidding me? Rozenstruik. I mean, that fight is... that's just who's going to get knocked out first.
Yeah.
Right? But Rozenstruik he's potentially has more power than
Ngannou
does.
But I'll say he's got more head. He moves better than Ngannou for sure. He's got more of a head movement. You see his boxing skills is a little bit better than Ngannou's, but we'll shall see But it's all about the power of their hands.
That knockout over him, knocked his lip off his face.
I know.
Literally, like just, and you can
4 seconds left.
Yeah, that was
buzzer beater, 3-pointer by Rozenstruik.
Jesus, and these guys both knocked out Overeem. Think about Overeem is a pretty much
devastating knockout.
Dude,
Overeem has lost years on his life from the 2 knockouts from Francis Ngannou.
CTE.
And CTE. And Rozenstruik.
Man, that knockout, I remember just looking at that knockout with Overeem and Ngannou, I just thought that the guy's dead.
Dude, he just knocked him out like in a whole different world.
Yeah.
He knocked him into like the world that you get into when you do mushrooms. Like that's the world he knocked Overeem in.
He went to a different dimension.
Or sent him to the gates of heaven and they brought him back.
Yeah, exactly.
So
so this fight between Ngannou and Rozenstruik. Now, okay, here's an interesting question: when they fight, whenever they do, because these guys both, they necessarily haven't. Francis Ngannou has had a lot of time off, and Rozenstruik doesn't get hit much, so they can kind of come back. This fight can potentially happen. Maybe even on January 18th on the McGregor card.
Right, it still gets a title shot.
Maybe. But so you can move it to the February card too and all that stuff. But this fight will happen recently. So winner of that fight for the heavyweight championship, because we don't know if it will be. It might be
DC.
It won't. No, but DC probably won't. He'll retire. So it will be just kind of the vacant heavyweight championship. Like what happens here for the winner? I think Francis Ngannou obviously. I'll ask, does Rozenstruik get a heavyweight title shot if he wins this fight?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah. He should be able to get a title shot, whoever the winner is between Ngannou and Rozenstruik.
He's got an impressive knockouts, and his resume speaks for itself. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he's got the guy.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It'll be interesting because I think you look at a guy like Stipe, who would be the only technical challenger here, because Daniel Cormier will most likely retire. Or you have John Jones move up to heavyweight.
I see John Jones, but he's going to have to wait a little longer to move up to heavyweight because he's got that beef with Adesanya. But
that's not happening. I don't think that's happening.
But hold on. Yeah. Well, he's got that fight with Reyes, which I don't see Reyes kind of bulldozing through Jones. I mean, John Jones is just athletically gifted. Like, I mean, he could go do drugs on a Sunday morning and then come back and then it's like, okay guys, I'm ready to train. He's got like 1 week left to train. And he'll still beat him.
No, and it's just to that point, John Jones, I heard on the latest Joe Rogan podcast that John Jones essentially didn't train for the Gustafsson fight the first time they fought.
No, he did. He was partying out.
And he still won against like Alexander Gustafsson, who's an amazing fighter, one of the best light heavyweights of all time. So yeah, I don't like I say, I don't see John Jones.
He did that with DC too on the first fight too.
The first one.
Never lost to DC either, which is crazy. Yeah, no, John Jones has never lost. Okay, he has a loss in his record.
You can roofie John Jones all you want, but still
he took out the entire division. Okay, so
roofing him will just have him not remember winning. That's all it will do. He'll still win. He just won't remember. He'll have to watch the video and be like, I don't remember any of this, but like I guess I won. So next fight. So
he cleaned up a talented light heavyweight division like Machida, Rua, who else? DC, Gustafsson.
Literally anybody you could.
Basically, he killed he just destroyed like a murder's row.
He destroys people though. I mean, I thought Anthony Smith was going to go in there and have a better chance, and he destroyed Anthony Smith.
He actually thought he was going to be the one to take out. John Jones, but that wasn't the case.
John Jones is very well aware of his opponent's abilities.
Right.
And he brushes up on that. He practices that in the gym. Sometimes he doesn't. I mean, but still, he's well aware and he's got that gut intuition. So, I mean, John Jones is not going to lose anytime soon unless it's to a heavy hitter like Ngannou.
And that's what here we go. So, it's like you see these heavy hitters, and you're like, man, Francis Ngannou properly trained.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to find the word. Properly, in good health. What word am I looking for? Conditioned. Yes, geez,
well conditioned.
Yeah. Perfectly conditioned. That's scary. 5 rounds in a ring with Francis Ngannou in a heavyweight fight. John Jones probably walks around in heavyweight too, so it probably won't be that big of a transition. But
for his cardio,
man,
it's I mean, we'll see if it changes his.
I'm
his
excited.
condition.
I'm getting excited. These fights are nowhere even close
But
to
remember,
happening.
John Jones got a fight in February.
Yep.
He does. No, and he's going to be fighting Dominic Reyes. And like we're saying, that's it's a good fight. It's the fight that should be happening. But John Jones shouldn't lose that fight.
No.
And
It's basically expected for Jones to retain his title and move up to heavyweight. But we shall see where that turns out, and hopefully he does go to heavyweight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully,
fights like a
yeah.
guys like Stipe
dude,
or
yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, they've been trying to push him up to heavyweight since like Velasquez was champion. And Velasquez, we all know he was a monster. He was a cardio machine for a heavyweight, and that guy moved around well until he ran into JDS and met his left hand, and then bam, lights out.
Yeah, no,
remember
that's
that fight.
it will be. I do remember that too. I think that was the first fight on Fox.
Fox,
ever.
yeah.
The first Fox, and everybody expected. I mean, at least the fans from here, the West Coast, they expected him to retain his title and just.
That's pretty shocking. That's pretty
JDS
shocking.
just shut down the whole crowd, and everybody's just in awe.
Yeah, no, that was good times in the heavyweight.
Yeah,
division.
it was
Yeah,
good.
that's when Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar was around the division.
It's true.
Yeah.
And he
Brock
would have
Lesnar still
gone up against JDS around that time, but diverticulitis took
Yeah.
over.
Poor Brock.
Yeah.
Could have came back. Could have came back and
That's
fought
right.
again, but he didn't. You know what we didn't talk about? Real quick.
Oh yeah.
Tito Ortiz versus Alberto Del Rio.
Alberto Patron.
Oh,
If you've been seeing, some of the commentary on the Instagram page, it's actually my family, and of course there's a dog in the back.
My dog is
Nick's
barking
dog.
in the background.
Yeah. So yeah, Tito Ortiz versus Alberto Patron. What can I say about Alberto? I mean, he did his best, but
Did he do his best, Eric? Did he do his best?
Yeah,
don't give him credit.
no. Alberto Del Rio is only a performer, but in the MMA world, he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have like a wrestling pedigree like Tito Ortiz. He's well
Should have
known.
gone up against somebody else who was
He should have had at least a tune-up fight before he went
tuna
in.
fight at least.
Yeah, these guys.
At least a couple of fights. I mean, these guys.
Not against.
Was this an Oscar De La Hoya fight again, or was this a?
It feels like it. Nah, but now it's combined.
No.
Americans.
Dana White's
No,
getting angry.
this is
No, this is
no, this is
De La
Combate.
Hoya.
This is Combate America. This is another promotion.
It's a small.
It's a Latin American
Yeah,
promotion.
but it's small. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that big yet. I mean,
Yeah.
some fans are hoping to be big. But
Here's the thing, though. The loss to Tito was not as bad as the loss to Mirko Krokrat back in the day.
they
Not-
knocked the hell out.
Knocked the F out in that fight. Not as bad, but Alberto Del Rio should stop fighting. in the
Yeah,
MMA.
just
Okay,
stick
come,
to.
Come to AEW or WWE.
Just do the commentary.
Come on, man. What are you doing?
Just do the commentary.
But so here's the interesting question. What happens? What does Tito Ortiz do next? Like, because he's got to just kind of keep fighting these kind of fights. Like, what does he do?
He said that he's going to keep fighting.
He's only 45. He's not that old.
He said he's actually going to fight.
DC's pretty damn old. Anderson Silva's pretty old.
Yeah.
And those guys are kind of declining.
Mark Hunt.
Mark Hunt.
That's another guy too.
I think he got released from his contract.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he just lost the lawsuit against Dana White and the UFC promotion.
Some of the guys from Bellator are also fighting too.
I mean, is there a chance that Ortiz goes back to his thing like Bellator or something like that? Or they-
He wants to fight Ryan Bader, but I don't see that happening. I mean, he's got a.
I mean, I'd be interested if they fought just because of the fact that Tito actually won that fight. That'd be insane. But
No.
Ryan Bader's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
Ryan Bader could be competing in the
I
heavyweight
mean,
division.
they fought before, and
Yeah.
Ryan Bader lost, obviously.
So-
Different time.
So Tito.
No.
Yeah. So Tito beat Alberto, and then he actually got the WWE Championship and gave it to his kids.
That made no sense. It
Which-
wasn't even. It was
Kind of weird.
like the old school WWE Championship.
Another Trump supporter.
Yeah.
That's another Trump.
Yeah.
He was wearing
He's
Yeah.
in the Trump shorts.
with the Mexican flag too.
I
Which a lot of
know.
people on Twitter were like, "This is insane.
Yeah.
This makes no sense."
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
it makes sense because his last name's obviously Ortiz.
Well, I just did the whole
Yeah.
Trump 2020 Mexico flag
Yeah.
thing.
I mean,
I'm not gonna get into it, but it's just
Politics.
exactly. It's
politics. We leave that crap outside of
only
the
Ryan brings that up on these podcasts,
Yes,
and,
that's right.
and we somehow brought it up twice. I'm rooting for Ortiz Liddell 4. That's
No, dude, leave that out.
battle to the death. Only for Chuck.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Crown
Saudi
Jewel.
Arabia will take it. Yeah,
Crown
Saudi
Jewel.
Arabia. Yeah, Crown Jewel. Jesus Crown Jewel 30. No, that's it. That's it for the show today. Great job. I mean, we had so much to talk about, and I think we did a good job. I think we did a good job of covering everything. Yeah, this has been a UFC/boxing show. We're excited about everything, and please do not bring up Ferguson Khabib too much because do not jinx that fight. Do not jinx Wilder and Fury and all these other great fights. But we are excited. For Nick Nenad,
I'm Eric Santos.
I'm Jesse.
And this has been another production of the Ring General.